Tom, there was a question you answered on do IUOCs have relationships? I remember you saying you asked permission to speak with the Free Will Awareness Unit through the IUOC to get a perspective on that Free Will Awareness Unit's experience. There's also information available in the databases to draw from. Was this experience and how you did it different from that?
I remember one experience where, let's say there was somebody who had a body here. The body died. They went up, they reincarnated into somebody else. And I was interested to know who the somebody else was that they incarnated to. So I did go to the IUC, went to the Free Wellness Unit, and they gave me the information about the new avatar. So I've done that. And I don't know whether that's what I was talking to you about or not. You have to describe it
That
a little more.
that might be. There was some sort of perspective you wanted on that lifetime that would have helped you understand something.
Well, you can do that. If you wanted to get a perspective of somebody's viewpoint at that time, yes, you could go and get that data out of the database. If they were, say, deceased, you could go get that data there. If they weren't deceased, you could go to them and do a little mind-to-mind connection and get a sense of their
Okay.
perspective. Yeah, I've got a very vague recollection of talking to you about something like that, but I need a little more detail before I could pull it back up. But I've done those sorts of things before.
So is it a certain circumstance that would require you to get special permission to speak directly to that Free Will Awareness Unit? Or,
Well,
and it's quite
yes,
different.
yeah, it would. It would have some permission. I think the permission there was just granted by the IUOC, who had the Free Will Awareness Unit that was incarnated. It's not going to let just anybody come in and mess with what's going on in its
Yeah,
own, in its own game. But
right.
if it thought you were going to go in and do something that would be damaging, of course, it would say no. But it may say, well, what do you want to do that for? And it may check you out and see whether or not you have a good history or a bad history or whether they could trust you or not. It
Mm.
could do a little research on its own. But yeah, I think permission would be required. It's not
Yeah,
something that just ordinarily anybody could do, because if that was the case, there would be some who would misuse it.
of
So
course.
the rules are there just like the rules we have. The laws and rules that we have are to keep people basically from doing bad things.
Yeah.
And this would be the same thing. The rules would be there to block misuse.
And the same thing if you were to approach it from the database. The same thing if you have to have the correct intent and
Yes,
quality, perhaps, to get that information.
that's right. You have to have
To,
the quality just to be able to get the information.
yeah,
And then you need to have a good reason for what you're doing.
yeah.
And then the system will support you. It'll give you the information you want. It'll answer your queries and it'll give you the output format you want. The
Mhm.
system's very cooperative if you're doing things that, in general, lower entropy, because that's what the system's about, is lowering entropy. If you're doing things that are going to raise entropy, then the system doesn't want to work against itself. It's
Okay.
trying to lower entropy, and it says, oh, you're going to raise entropy? Oh, sure, go ahead. No, it's going to say, I'm not going to support that. Raising entropy, doing things that, say, take advantage of people, or you could use to hurt somebody or blackmail someone. You're trying to get
Mhm.
information, negative information about people. The system's not going to support that.
Well, following up on that, in your theory, the IUOC is the accumulator of experiences
Mhm.
from which a different mix of qualities are partitioned off to the Free Will Awareness Unit. And then when that Free Will Awareness Unit's experience is over, a new set of qualities from the IUOC logs onto a new avatar.
Mhm.
The qualities of the entire IUOC could not be present in the Free Will Awareness Unit of the avatar because that would not create enough diverse experiences to accumulate. Would that be also true?
No, no. What you're doing is you're getting the accumulated experience. So an IUC is trying to grow up. So it's at a certain level of entropy, and it's trying to reduce that level of entropy. So it has a free will awareness unit. It comes into this entropy reduction trainer. It makes choices, and let's say it makes good choices, and it becomes a higher quality consciousness because it makes a lot of very good choices. It's helpful, it's caring, it's considerate, and so on. So it dies, and now the whole consciousness, that whole IUOC, now exists at a little higher level than it did before,
Mm.
because that last incarnation was a very positive one, grew up a lot. So now that whole IUC is just grown up a lot. It's better than it was. It's evolved to a higher place, to a higher quality of consciousness. So now the new, when it goes to make another free will awareness unit to log on to another avatar, it starts with that higher quality of consciousness that it has earned up to that point. So then it takes that, and that's where it starts. But it only is that quality of consciousness, none of the intellectual information about who it was, how it got there, anything like that, because it wants that higher quality of consciousness, has to interact with the world that it finds itself in. And by expressing its now higher quality self, it has a good chance of evolving more. The more you evolve, the easier it is to evolve more. So it has to express itself. So now it's in a new family, a new place, a new situation, a new gender, a new race, a new country, everything's new. And it has to now make choices. And the choices it makes, of course, are a reflection of what it is inside. So it has a tendency to make good choices. And we
Okay.
all have run across children that seem to be a lot more grown up than their age would say. So these entities are making good choices. And if they keep making good choices, then that IUOC will grow up a little more. And the next incarnation will be at a little higher level, and so on it goes. But let's say they get into a situation where it's really, really difficult situation,
Mm.
and they make poor choices. Well, if they make poor choices and continue to make poor choices, then they will de-evolve a little bit. See? And now that IUOC will de-evolve a little bit. It'll be a little lower than it was. So now it probably will be smart and want to start in something a little easier than that last one. And it'll probably tell the system, oops, I went backwards there for a while. That was too hard. That
Okay.
was too hard for me. I don't have the quality yet to do something that hard. Give me something a little easier next time. And the system would try to find them something that looked like it probably be easier, but then again, free will. So the system could say, well, this will probably be easier, and it might turn out to be really hard because choices are made that create situations, and free will can make it hard. So there's a bit of a randomness in there about the situation you actually get. The system can look at the probabilities and say, well, this will probably be about what you want,
Mm.
but doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder. It just kind of depends on the choices that the individuals make there about what's happening. And also there's a random thing. You may get in that better space, and you're just by chance, both of your parents get killed in a car accident while you're with the babysitter, and then you go to your mean aunt who doesn't like children, and now your life is very difficult, and that wasn't planned. It just happened. You see,
Right.
so there's a lot of free will choices that take place, and a lot of just random draws that take place that you don't always get what you expect. So one expects that their evolution isn't going to be like a straight line. Their evolution is going to be up some and down some and up and down and up and
Of
up and
course.
up and down and down. So it's going to have a zigzaggy line, sort of like a stock on the stock market. It's going to have good incarnations and not so good ones. But all of that averages out over time, because you also sometimes get some really good luck where it was a tough situation, but things fell your way and now it's not so hard. So you get good luck as well. And it all averages out, so that if you look at the line that averages through all of that, it tends to be on an upward trajectory, but it goes
Okay.
up and down from time to time based on how you good. But now think about 10,000 incarnations. Well, you can see that there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs, but in general, you should be trending upwards. If you're trending downwards, that's a problem.
Well, thank you. Speaking of difficulties, the subject often comes up on how difficult it is to accept that your loved one has moved on to another experience, and all you can connect with is the information of that avatar and the
Mm,
probabilities, the probabilistic future
mm.
information they would give, remembering that the free will awareness unit was firstly a part of the LCS, was then partitioned off to the IUOC, and then partitioned off to the free will awareness unit to experience and make choices here, helps to make more understandable that the avatar is not that particular entity anymore. If you can clarify that, what, and also what part of the IUOC was present in the chat room consciousness? That is, how might this first step in communication set up by the LCS have worked? Was that a free will awareness unit? Was that simply the IUOC? Was there an identity in the chat room that could be classified as a free will awareness unit? Or was it the entire IUOC that communicated in those non-physical interactions?
In the chat room, it was just IUOC talking to IUOC
I see.
because it was all one continuous thing. There was no separation, like it stopped and then restarted. It was all one continuous chat. You're in this big chat room and that's all you do. Get into it and it's just an endless chat. So sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's boring and whatever, but you have this endless chat going. So that's just an
And
IUOC.
you were accumulating quality from those chats, but not
Yeah,
very
effectively. Yeah,
effectively, like the free will
right,
awareness unit is
right.
here and there's instant feedback. So back to the question of the free will awareness unit experiencing, making choices here. Can you expand a little bit on how that helps to make more understandable that the avatar is not that particular identity anymore?
Yeah. Well, the name of the game is entropy reduction. The name of the game is to grow toward love. That's the whole purpose. So the way to do that efficiently is that you have an individuated unit of consciousness, which then partitions off that part of itself that contains its quality. It logs onto an avatar and it plays that particular avatar. Now, when that avatar dies, it's going to repeat that process. The free will awareness unit goes away. It's gone. The free will awareness unit is a throwaway. It doesn't exist forever. It creates another free will awareness unit, hopefully at a little higher level of consciousness. And then gets to an incarnation. It has that life. Now, the idea that you have lots of diversity. You have this life as a little girl, that life as a boy, this life, in this country, that and that, all kinds of different cultures, different people, different situations. And all of that diversity helps you grow, helps you experience more. The more you experience, the more choices, the more meaningful choices you make, the better. So why wouldn't the system say, well, okay, you little free will awareness unit, we're going to not throw you away. We're going to keep you. And now you're going to be that person again. And okay, you were Bill Smith. Now you're still going to be Bill Smith and you're still going to be Bill Smith. And Bill Smith lives forever and just keeps reincarnating as Bill Smith all the time. Okay, his name changes, but he's still Bill Smith. Well, you see where's the diversity in that? Where's the challenge? Where's that? Pretty soon, when you've been Bill Smith 500 times, you've been there, done that. You are that same person creating a similar thing. Okay, maybe you're Bill Smith in China and Bill Smith in the US, and Bill Smith is a little black girl and Bill Smith is a little white boy, and you're all kinds of things, different cultures, but you're still Bill Smith. Well, Bill Smith means you're an independent Bill Smith now. It's like your IUOCs has generated a Bill Smith. And that Bill Smith now is going on and doing this thing. So what you've done is generated another IUOC. So now you have another IUOC. So the IUOCs beget IUOCs and so on. And that's not the efficient way to work The problem, the efficient way, is you have an accumulator that accumulates all these lifetimes. And it's not just accumulated, well, can we say it's accumulated so that you can see all of the different things that you have. Now, you could have an IUOC that just, was Bill Smith and Bill Smith everywhere. And then Bill Smith would change. As each lifetime, Bill Smith would grow up and change some. Well, then it's not the same Bill Smith anymore. It's a different Bill Smith. And 1,000, cycles around, it's not the same Bill Smith that was back here at all. It's a totally different individual. But you see, you've got the same problem. Bill Smith is not Bill Smith anymore.
Yeah.
So that would be another way to configure the problem. You could configure it that way and let Bill Smith do his own processing with the whole, all of the experiences together. But you wouldn't want him doing that while he was incarnated as one. If he's incarnated now as the 1,000th Bill Smith, he doesn't have the memory of all those other 999 Bill Smiths, because that would get in the way of his making choices and so on, based just on what was inside of him. So that would be a problem. So somehow you have to separate him from those memories. Otherwise, he's going to be gaming the system. He's going to say, oh, I know the right answer here. You're supposed to be kind. All right, I'll be kind. See, got points for that. No, yes, don't game the system. We want to take your intellectual stuff away so you can't game the system. We want you to have only the memories that you have being inside that particular womb, that particular child being born in that particular situation. And that is the only life you know. Now you're going to make choices out of who you are at the core. Your core makes those choices. Otherwise, you'll be making choices. Oh, when I was Bill Smith, number 27, I remember, I know what to do here. You say you wouldn't be making choices out of the core of you. You'd be making choices out of your intellect.
And that's where
And
the learning is.
that would slow down your learning tremendously. So if you
This is
want to,
understandable, but this is the problem that people have. I loved who my grandmother was so much, is what they would say. I am not happy about not being able to connect to her,
right?
but for the information I can pull out. But you're getting that information is all there was to that free will awareness unit, including the probabilistic future answers
Yeah, right.
that you would
All
get.
of that was there. They're not missing anything.
They're not
That,
losing that.
yeah, they're not losing anything at all. And the
Yeah.
point is, what you just said, you were kind of pretending to be this person who was upset about not having their grandmother around anymore. But you notice that all of those sentences you just said started with I. I want to have my grandmother. I miss this part of my grandmother. I. That is self-centered. It's not what I want. I want it to be this other way. I want my children to be around me all the time for all the rest of my lives because I love my children so much and they need to be with me and my children forever. Well, it's and it's not about you. I'm sorry to tell you this, but the whole system does not center around you. You are not the center of the larger consciousness system. You're an IUOC evolving, and it has configured the system to help you evolve in the most efficient and effective way possible. And what did the Rolling Stones say? You don't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you get what you need. And that's exactly this case.
Yeah.
You don't always get what you want. You are not the master of the larger consciousness system, but you are put in a space where the system has optimized your ability to grow up, optimized your probability of evolving. And that means you start over without having the knowledge, because otherwise you try to game the system. You start over with just your level of goodness and love that you've earned. And now you make choices based on that level. And then you evolve or de-evolve based on how you make choices in that lifetime.
I think
Sometimes,
perhaps something that might help people feel closer to that deceased loved one is to respect that process that they're going through. Respect the process of the LCS wanting to give you diverse experiences and not think that that individual is, like you have said sometimes, hanging out on a cloud somewhere and just available to be there for comfort. That's
Now,
not how
if
your
that was the
process
case, poor Bill
works.
Smith would never grow up. If
Yeah.
he just had one shot, he'd have one shot, he'd do what he did. From then, he sits out on a cloud playing a harp, waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for somebody to say, "Hey, Grandfather Bill, I'd like to have a chat with you." And he may wait centuries between somebody, and after 10 or 20 centuries, he probably never get contacted again because his memory isn't even alive anymore in the world. So he's going to just sit there forever and the phone will never ring. Poor Bill. That's not a very good life for Bill. His IUOC needs to get back in the game. Another free will awareness unit, another person. And that's the way it has to be. That's efficient. But I would like Bill, my son, he was my dear son, and Susie, my dear daughter, and I'd like for them to always be there. Well, you would like to terminate their growth so that you will always have them around. That's pretty self-centered. Much better to allow them to go on and progress in many ways and wish them luck and the fact that they're not sitting on a cloud waiting for you to call is a good thing, not a bad thing. You
Wishing them
have,
luck on their new
yeah,
adventure and their
exactly.
experience and their process. Honor that.
Right.
That's a great discussion, Tom. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
That's the thing. Yeah. It's a very kind of selfish viewpoint to
Yeah.
say, I want to keep this always the way it is. Well, you wouldn't wish that your 3-year-old always stayed a 3-year-old. Oh, I've got this 3-year-old and I just love her so much. I want her to always stay a 3-year-old. All right. I have the power to do that. You're always going to be a 3-year-old. Is that a nice thing or is that a very selfish thing? I think that's a very selfish thing to limit your 3-year-old from growing up anymore. You make them stay exactly the way they were. They can't progress now because they have to sit and wait for you to call them and talk to them and reunite with them later. And you're the same way. You can't grow either because you're somebody's daughter, somebody's son, somebody's loved one, and you can't go on because you have to hang around in case somebody wants to talk to you. That, you see, it just doesn't compute. It doesn't make a viable system. It doesn't work. Now, it's a happy idea. Me and my loved ones will all get together in the afterlife and we'll just have fun playing our harps together. We'll make a band. We'll have a harp band or some sort of thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't make good sense when you realize that you are a piece of consciousness. Your purpose is to evolve and grow up because that's the purpose of the whole thing is to become love. And you can't become love if you have one shot and then you're done. You stay just the same. You don't have 10,000 incarnations. You got one. Well, buddy, you better make it good on the first one because if you don't, you're stuck with that all the rest of your existence. If you made some poor choices and ended up doing some not so nice things, sorry, bud. That's who you are and that's who you'll be forever.
Not logical and it's not efficient.
No,
Um,
it doesn't work.
yeah.
And it would be very unfair and very self-centered to wish that on anybody. You got one shot and you're stuck forever. Forever's a long time. That's not
A
a
child
good
that
thing.
didn't get to experience much of a life, or a child born into a war zone and things like that.
Yeah, and that's
It,
it.
it makes a lot of sense that your theory of reincarnation is something that assists in the evolution of the LCS and in the evolution of consciousness.
Well, I made my model. I made it to be functional, and I figured this information system would configure itself to be efficient because it's an aware system. It's not like it's just a machine somebody built. It's aware, it's conscious. Why wouldn't it want to be efficient in its evolution, not be inefficient? So that was one of the assumptions in the sense that the system isn't stupid. It's going to do the things that work best. Can't start with an assumption. It's a stupid system. Well, it will grow up and eventually it'll find the best path. the path that is effective and efficient and works best for everyone. So that's what it's done. So you can be very certain that a system that grows up to be dysfunctional is not going to last long. Well, this system's lasted a long, long time, and that's because it's effective. So that,
Thank you so much for that,
yeah,
Tom.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Would you like to see a better world? Get a better perspective. Balance your intellect with intuition and explore your true nature with the Exploring Consciousness and Everything Paranormal program with Thomas Campbell. In this program, you will have the benefit of Tom's vast experience and learn to access point consciousness, communicate with the larger consciousness system, remote view, use your natural ability to heal with intent, and explore reality in the out-of-body state. His famous binaural beats are included. Details are in the description below. Thank you.
I and MBT Events hope you like this video. If you do, then you should consider being a Patreon member, because Patreon members get early access to our special content. You will also be able to get your questions answered by me in special Q&A sessions, and most importantly, your contribution as a patron member will enable us to produce the content that you're looking for. So thank you.